Hey everybody, John Skiba here, and in this video I'm going to share with you some tips and strategies on how to deal with student loans, particularly if you've been sued by the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust. But if this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, go ahead and click subscribe, check on that little bell, that way you'll be notified each and every week when I put out new videos that can help you deal with your serious debt problems. All right, let's talk about student loans. I think everybody knows student loans are at a crisis point in the United States. There's over $1 trillion in student loans that are currently outstanding. Not only that, the default rate on student loans is sky high when compared to other types of unsecured debts like credit cards and medical bills. And what a lot of people are finding, what I've seen in my law practice over the last 2 decades, is I have tons of young people come in with truly heartbreaking stories. They come in, I remember one time I had a couple come in and they shared with me they'd recently got married. They were in their mid-late 20s. They both had over $200,000 of student loan debt. And get this, they both had bachelor's degrees out of that. And not only that, but they had bachelor's degrees that were not going to be able to ever generate the type of income that would allow them to pay back a combined $400,000. And they looked at me and they said, what do? We can't buy a car, we can't buy a house, we've got all this debt, we don't make much money. And truthfully, the options were not great, particularly then. And truthfully, they're not much better now. This is an election year. We always hear people talking about eliminating student loan debt. You know what? They've been talking about that forever. And I don't know if there's really going to be much relief even on the horizon. To make matters worse, private student loans now are often treated like credit cards. Like when a credit card goes into default, the private student loan lenders will charge off the debt and sell it to a junk debt buyer. And by far the largest purchaser of old charged off private student loans is the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust. Now, this video is going to be specifically about national collegiate lawsuits. I don't do this a lot. Usually I talk in generalities about junk debt buyer suits. But if you're being sued by national collegiate, there's kind of a little silver lining around this dark cloud that you're dealing with, because your best opportunity to deal with this student loan is probably going to be done through being sued by national collegiate. Here's why. First of all, it's important to understand under the bankruptcy code right now, chapter 7 or chapter 13, student loan debt typically does not go away. If you're in a bankruptcy, you can ask the court to discharge the debt, but you have to go through what's called an adversary proceeding, and you may or may not get the debt completely eliminated, or they may settle it. But there's typically a pretty high bar of trying to get rid of credit or student loan debt when you go through a bankruptcy process. So if you're getting sued by a junk debt buyer like National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, the reason why that may be actually a benefit to you, because this is a good opportunity to try to resolve it either through settlement or even making them prove their case. And the other little thing to know, National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, of all the debt buyers out there, they're the worst. Their documentation is a mess. They're alleging that the document changed hands multiple times. There's these other companies called the First Marblehead Corporation, American Education Services. They have all of these different companies involved. The documentation they have is very minimal and very generic. It doesn't reference specific account numbers, account names. And then the little cherry on the top of all of this is when you get into litigation with them, the only witnesses that they have are these professional witnesses from a company called Transworld Systems, Inc. Now, Transworld Systems, Inc. has had a kind of a shaky past when it comes to dealing with these things. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually issued a consent order against them because they found that these witnesses for TSI, for Transworld, who were testifying on behalf of the National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, were providing misleading and inaccurate affidavits when it was attached to something like a motion for summary judgment, and they even found them to be giving misleading and outright inaccurate information and testimony when they were in court. So there's this document from the federal government saying that these Transworld Systems Inc.'s witnesses were lying under oath, whether it be in an affidavit or whether it be in an actual trial type setting. So there's a lot of different ways to attack them. Not only that, when you get to actually look at their documentation they provide, a lot of it's not even documents. It's like screenshots of computers. Like you look, there's like hotkey numbers along the bottom where they just printed this thing off of a computer screen. And so it's just an area ripe for objections as far as evidentiary objections to having any of that stuff admitted into court. And what I have found is that when you really aggressively go after a National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, they will often agree to a substantial settlement or an outright dismissal. So it is possible to effectively fight these lawsuits and put them in a position to get some type of settlement or even, hopefully a dismissal outright. So the other principles that I've talked about here on my YouTube channel as to junk debt buyer cases, about admissibility of evidence, about witnesses, and about just general procedure are all applicable to National Collegiate. But it's important to know that these are cases that are especially important to contest. Nothing breaks my heart worse than when someone comes in with this giant default judgment against National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, because there are so many options to getting that debt reduced or eliminated if you'll just take that first step to file an answer. So hopefully that helps you if you're dealing with National Collegiate Student Loan Trust lawsuits. I'm actually going to be working on a course here that we're going to be releasing soon that deals specifically with some tips and information on how to deal with those suits if you find yourself being sued by them. Again, please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, but I appreciate you watching today.